Hello and welcome to the Dune Minute Podcast, your place to dive deep, minute by minute, into the cinematic adaptation of Frank Herbert's World of Dune. I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm Zach.
And it is Friday. We are closing out this week of the Dune Minute Podcast, and we got a fun episode today.
Yeah.
We are not touching grass, we're touching spice today. Last episode, we ended with the ornithopters landing and touching down on the west side of the what will soon be scuttled crawler due to the failures of the carryall. At the end of last episode, Leto Atreides had directed Gurney Halleck to go tell the other two ships to scuttle their shield generators to save some weight so they could carry more men, and Paul to step out the back of the vehicles to help direct each of the men from the crawler into the ornithopters. So we see Gurney, just rush out right onto the desert. Mm-hmm. Paul begins stepping out, and the moment that he steps onto the desert sands,
the whole vibe changes.
It just chills the fuck out.
Yep.
He finds like a moment of silence, and he takes a couple steps and everything, and then just kind of like gets down on one knee, grabs a handful of the sand. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that handful is about 50-50 sand and spice, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's really to signal. So yeah, as soon as this foot hits this, we hear this like deep, like boom. It's like it's like a drum, like a big drum sound when his foot hits the sand. And it wasn't explicitly called out here. Mm-hmm. But this, as far as I can tell, is Paul's first contact with the desert.
It's his first contact with the desert and his first contact with spice.
Yep. So this is important. This is a really like a big moment for
Unless
the movie.
Paul's just been huffing spice in secret, kind of like how you used to like smoke weed in secret away from your parents or whatever.
I never did that. I was a good kid.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he would have had access to spice in the palace, but he probably didn't do it. He probably wasn't getting, his diet was not going to be like
not doing lines of spice off of strippers' asses or whatever. And even though he's the son of a rich kid, he definitely could.
The son of a rich kid. Yep.
Well, I mean, in fairness,
Leto is a rich kid.
Leto was a rich kid, now a rich man. So,
yeah. So, but this, for all intents and purposes, this is the first contact with the desert and the spice. And this is a really, really big moment for the story.
Yes.
I feel like his senses change.
Well, it also doesn't help that the ornithopter's wings are still just fucking going full blast, kicking up all this dust and spice around him either. Yeah,
for sure. So the look on his face told me that, I recognize something is different.
Yeah.
Like there's some kind of change, and we'll learn more about this next week when we talk about it. But, clearly something has shifted within him as soon as his foot touched the ground.
Yep.
The camera shots that are on Paul are almost in like slow motion,
like kind of wide-ish.
Yeah, and the music is muted, and it's very kind of like ethereal feeling that they're giving you.
You can still hear like the clank sounds that that the carryall is, releasing itself from the crawler, and the crawler is still making and everything, but those are also like muted in the background, and kind of like that. You know how in movies when they're trying like to portray, like in war movies or wherever, when someone gets like hit by a shell off, 10 feet off in the distance, and their head is all like wobbly with the tinnitus and the like muffled,
the ears are ringing
kind of sound.
And that's exactly what they're doing here. And you can see in the background like people, like the other folks running to the ships.
Yep.
And
you see the ladder descend from the side of the.
So it's a very stark contrast to like all the commotion that's going on in the background, where you see Paul as like basically entering into like a moment of Zen.
Yeah.
He's like,
in my notes, it's a moment of serenity.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and then he takes that couple steps into the sand, bends down, picks up a handful of it. You see the spice rolling off his palm. And that was, his first contact with spice.
Yeah.
It's a big moment. The story's forever changed after this moment.
Yes. And unfortunately, all of the immediate impact of this we won't see until next week's episodes. But there's going to be a lot of important stuff that happens as the crew is, helping to get the crawler workers off of this now incredibly dangerous plot of
doomed
land. Yeah.
The doomed crawler. Yep.
The doomed Dune crawler.
Yeah, one could say that.
the doomed Dune crawler on Dune.
Yep. You got one more?
No.
Okay.
I was trying to think of another one, but there was nothing there.
So some clanking noises kind of snap Paul back to reality for a second.
Yep.
And he looks up and we see the anchors detach from the harvester.
Yep. And the harvester begins to kind of just drift away.
Yeah. Yep.
In defeat.
Limping away.
Yeah.
I noticed that all the spotters, the spotter aircraft are just like, zzz, like off in the distance.
Kind of start to rise away.
Yeah.
I'm curious, first of all, how far out they are away from everything, because they're probably not close to Arakeen. They're probably not super far, but they're also not incredibly close. We don't see Arakeen on the horizon at any point.
No. I mean, the books tell us that they don't go to the deep desert to do this harvesting.
Yeah.
But all of the sands that are kind of in the immediate vicinity of the city have already been like stripped. And, we mentioned yesterday that it's, spice is a byproduct of worm reproduction, excuse me. And
yesterday or Wednesday? I think that was Wednesday.
One of the days in the past, one of the days this week. So the worms don't come that close to the city to, reproduce anymore. Sure. So those lands are not really things that they would mine anymore. So it's somewhere, a middle distance away from the city.
The point that I was getting at is I wonder what the range on those spotter craft is, and if they have to like do a separate pickup or whatever for those guys later on, or not that it really matters to the story or anything.
I don't know. The encyclopedia did not have any kind of mention of the spotters. It detailed a number of spice equipment, like the harvester, the carryall, the factory, all that kind of stuff, and went into the actual like production process of refining spice. Yeah. But did not mention the spotter craft at all. So I don't know.
Guess we'll never know, really.
Is this the only time we see them in the movie? The spotter craft?
The spotters, yeah.
Okay. Well, it was fun while it lasted, folks.
Yeah. Our little Sputnik friends.
Yep. We see the ornithopters on the ground next to Paul. Their wings are still going a million miles an hour. Just ready for a speedy takeoff.
Kicking up dust.
Yep. And that's really where the minute ends.
Yep.
So this was almost a dialogue-less minute. It was very close.
I think aside from like some just general shouting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So nothing really from our main characters. We get the tail end of Leto's instruction right at the 0 second mark.
Okay.
On this. Yeah. So it's the thing that like bridges. So I know we've had some disagreement on where do these minutes end and begin.
Yeah.
But it's like right there. So you could consider it the first, half second of the minute, Leto's voice or not. And you're both correct.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We're arguing the finest of details at this point.
Yep.
But yeah, we have touched spice and we are forever changed at this point.
That's right.
So Before we end, it's now time for everyone's favorite news segment, book comparisons. Hit us.
All right, book comparisons. None of this happens.
Oh God.
So this is the portion of the scene which has the biggest deviations.
Okay. This is all movie magic.
Yeah. So in the books, Paul stays in the ship. I told you they don't have to offload any kind of weight from the ornithopters.
Yep.
They have additional assistance from the carryalls. So there's not really
from the carryall.
Sorry, from the spotter
Okay.
craft. Thank you.
Does the carryall still just fuck off in the?
Do not hear from it again.
Okay.
Yep. So there's not really a question of can we. Well, there's still a question of weight, but it's more of a, are you sure it can hold everything versus we have to shed weight to make sure we can hold everyone.
Okay.
Gurney is, I think I said this in minutes past, but Gurney kind of questions Leto about it a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and
yesterday's episode.
The response that we get from Leto after they've taken off is, "Do you really think I would do you really think I would endanger this cargo?" And Gurney's like, and in his head, he's like, "I knew he wasn't talking about the spice at this point."
Yeah,
he's talking about Paul. So yeah, we do get some worries about weight. But yeah, Paul stays in the ship for all of this.
Do you think Leto has like a little baby on board thing for his ornithopter?
I don't think so. Paul's not a baby. I think he did. I think it's safe to say he did have one, but you take that off. And he probably had the stick figure soccer family on there. And there was one rolling ugly one for Gurney.
Just put a stick figure or just like a calculator for Thufir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a little stick figure guy with a sword for I want Duncan.
I'd like this to be a real product. That would be funny. Yeah. So that's kind of where this scene ends. Well, sorry, no, there's a little bit more in the scene in the book, which I can talk about because it doesn't have any kind of spoilers for the movie or anything like that.
By all means.
So we get the crew of the Harvester inside the ornithopter. They take off. They get a bunch of they get a little bit of attitude from the crew. The crew.
Yeah.
Cause they're like, why the heck did you pull us off there? We had a full load. That's where we get the line, "Sir, we have a full load." And he goes, "Damn the spice." Yeah. That's also from the books.
Okay.
Have we seen that yet? Did that happen?
I think that's next week.
Well, spoilers for next week. Sorry. But yeah, we get some conversations between one of the workers and Paul. And I forget exactly what the conversation goes like, but it basically leads into another quoting of prophecy from the worker. Paul does some things and it matches up to another little piece of prophecy, which is just, furthering this Lisan al-Gaib thing.
So are some of the workers Fremen then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or at least have Fremen friends in there, maybe just like Leta or Kynes accepted in both Siege and Village.
Yeah. Well, spoilers, Kynes is half Fremen. So
we talked about that.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. So that's kind of where the analogies between the scenes end. I think next week is kind of a big departure from the books.
Okay.
Or at least in the latter half of next week. So we'll get into that more.
Yeah. Well, next week is also exciting because next week we have our first guest on the podcast. Yeah. So a good friend of ours, Charlie, is joining us next week to discuss the next 5 minutes of Dune. And we are going to have a lot to talk about because there's a lot of action next week.
Finally, something else to look at other than your face, man.
Wow, dude. Okay. First of all, fuck you. You've been looking at my face for 12 years. So.
All right, cool. We will see y'all next week. Wait, we got to rate this week, John.
Shit, we do. Okay. So if I'm going to give this week a rating, and if I'm going to be honest with ourselves here, I'm probably going to stick to about a 6 for this week, maybe 6.5, because while there is a lot of tension in the week, there's also a lot of just hovering in midair, listening to a radio and talking.
Yeah.
However, that dive scene, super fucking cool. Paul, having his first interaction with Spice, super cool. Leto having good eyes, that's pretty cool.
It's impressive.
It is. So I think I'm going to say like a 6.5.
Okay. That dive scene really raised the average. On this.
I think without that dive scene, we're looking at like a 5.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah. We'll be neighborhood friends. I'm going to come in like a 5.5 on this one.
Okay.
It's building up a lot for
it's a lot of sitting
see.
and talking.
Yeah. But we got some cool moments, but most of it was just kind of flying and talking and some explanations about things, which are cool and good and useful. But all right, cool. Well, that'll do it for this week.
Yep.
And we will be back bright and early on Monday morning to continue talking about the Spice Harvester.
Yes. You can reach us on Instagram at the Dune Minute. You can find us on Twitter at Dune Minute or email duneminute@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Feel free to rate and share the show. And we will see you on Monday.
See ya.